As the ground trembled lightly under her weight, Mira felt something shifting beneath the soil, an undercurrent of moving roots that pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. The forest whispered her name over and over, but the tone now felt urgent, almost pleading. Each step triggered a burst of ancestral memories rising like steam from the moss, forming faces and fragmented words, warnings, instructions, forgotten bloodlines, and broken promises. The roots guided her to an underground cavern entrance draped with ghostly white vines. Inside, the walls were carved with the stories of her lineage, heroic guardians, traitors, cursed protectors, and lost wanderers, each etched with glowing script that whispered its own tale. As Mira traced a symbol of her mother's name, the ground gently around her wrist, not constricting, but guiding, inviting her to walk further into the forest's living memory before her own identity began to unravel within it. In the cavern's deepest chamber, a column of golden light erupted from the ground, swirling with images that did not belong to Mira. She saw a memory of a young woman fleeing through the forest at night, a woman with her same face but older, stronger, and furious. The woman fought shadowy vines that tried to restrain her, screaming, "My child will not inherit this curse," before plunging a dagger into the forest floor, shattering the ground into brilliant shards. Mira realized she was witnessing the day her mother severed her own bond to protect Mira from becoming the next forest guardian, but the forest itself refused to forget. With dread tightening inside her chest, Mira understood that the forest had been calling her since birth, waiting for her to return and resume what her mother sealed behind her, trapping her inside with a voice that said softly, "You wanted the truth. Now you must survive it." In the cavern's deepest chamber, a column of golden light erupted from the ground, swirling with images that did not belong to Mira. She saw a memory of a young woman fleeing through the forest at night, a woman with her same face but older, stronger, and furious. The woman fought shadowy vines that tried to restrain her, screaming, "My child will not inherit this curse," before plunging a dagger into the forest floor, shattering the ground into brilliant shards. Mira realized she was witnessing the day her mother severed her own bond to protect Mira from becoming the next forest guardian, but the forest itself refused to forget. With dread tightening inside her chest, Mira understood that the forest had been calling her since birth, waiting for her to return and resume what her mother abandoned. And now, trapped in this living tunnel of memories, Mira no longer knew where her mother's past ended and her own identity began. Mira followed a spiraling path into a cathedral-like chamber where the walls played voices like a choir, laughter, cries, lullabies, warnings, all belonging to her ancestors. The sound was overwhelming, filling her skull until her thoughts were barely distinguishable from theirs. The floor was covered in shallow water that reflected moving faces instead of her own reflection, faces that mouthed words she didn't understand. As she stepped through the hall, the voices synchronized and whispered, "You are the memory we saved." Mira felt a fleeting terror that she herself might not be real. What if she were simply a vessel of their collective memory rather than her own person? Before the thought could fully form, a massive vine coiled down from the ceiling, urging her toward a massive wooden door that pulsed like a heartbeat, waiting for her to unlock the truth hidden behind it. When Mira touched the pulsing wooden door, it peeled open like a blooming flower, revealing a blinding corridor lined with floating wooden tablets carved with her family's forgotten deeds. The tablets rearranged themselves in swirling constellations, forming a story that stretched centuries into the past. Mira watched the saga unfold. Her great-great-grandmother who forged a pact with the forest, a rebellious uncle who tried to burn it down, her mother breaking the ancestral chain, and now Mira, the first descendant the forest recognized as a neutral memory, unshaped yet potent. The corridor narrowed and forced her forward, as though the forest feared she might turn back. At the end, a single glowing seed hovered, warm and pulsing like a living heart. A whisper brushed her ear, "Take it. Become what your mother refused." Mira hesitated, knowing that accepting it meant choosing a destiny she didn't fully understand. The moment Mira grasped the seed, it dissolved into her palm, burning through her skin like molten gold before spreading through her bloodstream in a feverish rush. Her senses heightened instantly. She could hear sap flowing inside the trees above, feel the emotional residue of every ancestor who had walked here, and sense the forest's vast, ancient loneliness. The cavern collapsed around her in slow motion as roots curled protectively around her body, pulling her upward through the earth until she burst back onto the surface in a shower of glowing spores. The whole forest seemed to inhale as one, welcoming her as its reluctant heir. But instead of pride, Mira felt an overwhelming dread. The forest was alive, aware, and deeply wounded, and now its injuries echoed through her own mind like phantom pain. The trees around Mira shifted, twisting their branches into humanoid shapes with glowing amber eyes, manifestations of the forest's judgment. They circled her, analyzing her new connection, deciding whether she was worthy. One stepped forward, placing a bark-covered hand on her chest, and instantly Mira was plunged into a mental trial where she experienced every ancestor's greatest mistake: betrayals, abandoned duties, broken promises, and lives sacrificed to protect the forest. Each memory hit her like a physical blow, forcing her to confront the weight of her lineage. When she finally collapsed to her knees, gasping for air, the forest spirit stepped back and bowed slightly. The forest had accepted her suffering as proof of sincerity. But Mira knew the acceptance came with a cost. She could no longer hide from the past she carried inside her. A sudden coldness swept through the forest, and the trees recoiled as a shadowy figure formed from blackened bark and twisted vines. Mira recognized the face instantly: her ancestor Kori, the man who tried to burn the forest centuries ago. His spirit walked toward her, dragging chains of ash and smoke, whispering, "You carry my shame as well." Unlike the other memories, this one was aggressive, trying to force its emotions into Mira's mind. She staggered backward as visions of fire, destruction, and rage overwhelmed her, threatening to override her own identity. With trembling resolve, Mira pressed her forehead against the chest of the ghostly figure and whispered, "Your memory doesn't control me." The shadow cracked, shattered, and the forest exhaled in relief. But Mira felt drained, realizing the forest expected her to cleanse every corrupted memory in its history.